Welcome everyone to the BFSI Innovation Summit. And thank you, ET, for giving me the opportunity to discuss on the adoption of cloud in the banking segment. Let us start with the BFSI conundrum. One of the biggest challenges the banking industry faced over the last couple of days and months has been the banking snags, which has been happening across different service providers or banks. But having said that, the banking industry has seen a substantial amount of digital transformation. And the data from the Reserve Bank of India reveal that the mobile payments grew by 170% in value, and the internet payments also shot up by almost 41%. So clearly, the banking industry and the consumers are adopting digital in a very big way. Let's look at the key challenges and priorities as far as the banking industry itself is concerned. The first and the foremost priority for the banking industry today is the customer acquisition and retention. The banking industry continues to focus on how do you kind of give the service across to your existing customers and improve the acquisition of new customers. What it means is a faster time to market, because the banking industry needs to come up with innovative portfolio to ensure that the consumer experience and the portfolio reaches them in the fastest time. Also, the other focus for the banking industry continues to be the regulatory compliances by the RBI, which focuses on security. The efficient operations of the banking industry is critical, as mentioned earlier in the snags which the banking industry faced, that how do you ensure that you have a very efficient operation, which ensures a 24/7 availability of digital for the consumer. Cybercrime is something which has seen a spike post the pandemic. So the focus for the banking industry continues to be security. And last but not the least, the rapid innovation, which drives basically any adoption of digital. If you look at the key priorities for the banking segment in the next 2 to 3 years, this is a report which was done by a third party, which speaks about 20% of the customers or the banking industry is focusing on migration to cloud. Open banking is a big focus with almost 43% looking at open banking transformation. Innovation continues to lead with 56%. Adoption of emerging technologies like AI, augmented reality, blockchain are a focus for almost 66%. And with the COVID and the pandemic, driving digital transformation continues to be a focus area for almost 88% of the banking segment. But what's driving the banking industry to the cloud? As I mentioned earlier, the key focus is the customer centricity. Most of the customers today being on digital, customer centricity becomes the key aspect for driving the banking industry to cloud. The second aspect is the innovation. How do you innovate with new fintech payment gateways, payment banks coming into the play? How do you innovate your portfolio to ensure you bring in new portfolio across to your customers at the fastest time? Cloud compliance and security are critical for banking. Simplified IT deployment, because your time to market is very critical. Cost reduction continues to be a big focus, considering the pandemic with most of the customers looking at cost reduction on the infrastructure. Cloud is an area where banking industry is looking at optimizing its cost. Last but not the least, the cloud native banking solutions which the banking industry is trying to adopt. But let's look at the outlook itself. Almost 35% of the customers are looking at cloud technologies to address their computing power needs. 60% foresee deploying more computing power in the public cloud by 2025. Hybrid cloud is the only IT model showing positive growth among all financial companies, and it is expected to grow almost 39% as per the Enterprise Cloud Index. 43% of financial services companies plan to increase their investment in private cloud over the next year. So private cloud adoption is clearly something which is on a way up as far as the banking industry is concerned. The financial services sector's top motivations for modernizing its infrastructure is largely to have a greater control on the IT to gain speed from a time to market perspective and the flexibility to meet new business requirements. 36% of retail banks' top new proposition for innovation is building their own greenfield digital bank. So let's look at the technology impact on the business. As I mentioned, business growth is the key for all banking customers. Risk and regulatory, cost reduction, and improved operations. But the business growth is driven largely by the customer and the customer data. So customer analytics based on questions, cross-product analytics are a key drivers for any business growth. Cost reduction is the other aspect where customers and banking industry today is looking at implementing anti-money laundering and know your customers. It is also looking at how do you bring in archival and storage of emails and voice to reduce your cost of storage. And last but not the least, at improved operations like smart settlements and trade reconciliation. But the key aspect in the technology are the areas around storage, reporting and analytics, containers, APIs and microservices, and master data management. The most important part when we are discussing customer analytics is how do you leverage cloud as an analytics platform for getting real insight into your customer data. Exposing data and services through APIs and microservices, these enable faster and easier access to data. With the explosion of data and the consumers, storage become very critical, and the cost of storage is what is the need that the banking industry starts looking at. Let's look at what is the driver of choice when it comes to choosing. The first is the context. What is the objective when you are trying to choose a cloud? What is the cost to the business in case of failures? The consequences and the impact on the business, and we've seen that with the outages that has happened with the banks. The capabilities, people and training are the key aspect when you are building any new technology platforms or any cloud services. So skill sets become very critical when you're looking at capabilities. Choice, are you looking at proprietary platforms or are you looking at platforms which makes it convenient for you to use and train? Last but not the least, the characteristics itself on the availability, performance, and the price point. At NxtGen, we believe you choose your own path by introducing the NxtGen Performance Cluster. This is an on-prem deployment or a private cloud where you have the benefit of deploying your cloud on-premise, add an NxtGen DC, add a third-party DC, or a choice of your location. It is highly available with all components built in with redundancy. It is built-in orchestration, management, and monitoring suite. Consumption-based charge model. So it is a full-fledged cloud where you pay for the resources you consume. It is scalable up to 4x, so gives you the leverage to scale the infrastructure to the extent you want. And lastly, it is flexible to add any services where you need to add security, backup, disaster recovery, or networking on the go into the same cluster itself. At NxtGen, we have a big footprint across India with physical presence across 4 locations with 3,500 rack capacity and a 36 megawatt power. The NxtGen service landscape is covering across transformation services, continuation services, and infrastructure services. And the key aspect of digital, which I mentioned, which the banking industry is going through, is looking at the transformation services of using services like augmented reality, services like video and speech analytics, and DevOps as a service. But the key aspect to drive some of the continuity of the business is done through data production as a service with managed security, backup, disaster, and infinite vault, which is a file sync and shared services. Of course, we also offer the infrastructure services, which is around the public clouds and the private cloud and hybrid, with co-location services available across all our 4 data centers. We also offer on-prem data center services, and pandemic has driven a work from home. So NxtGen also offers services, which is desktop as a service. And last but not the least, the key aspect of new technologies around AI, ML, and GPU-based services. The whole landscape of NxtGen today, we are able to offer the banking industry the services which are relevant for them to do a full digital transformation and scale their business in the way they need to scale. Thank you so much. And we will be very happy to talk to you and discuss with you all the new technologies that the banking industry is looking forward to. Thank you very much.